those of you who do not know me, my name is Joseph DiDonato. By day, I'm a vocational rehabilitation counselor, and in my spare time, I like to do some woodworking as a hobby and try to sell things. So today, we are meeting to discuss, everybody looked that way, so I felt compelled to. Today, we are going to discuss workshop safety in regards to using a lot of woodworking equipment, how to be safe in the workshop. We have our goals that I've written up here on the board. 5 main goals. Again, first one is understanding shop safety and the components that go into that. Why are we safe in the wood shop? Why does it matter? A brief discussion that we're all going to kind of interact together and talk about that in a little bit more detail. Then we're going to go into specifically your personal safety, how you yourself can be safe here in the workshop using these tools and equipment. Moving on, we're going to take a quick tour of the space, identify what these tools are, common hazards that are involved in them, and again, applying the things that we discussed previously, and then moving on to how to follow protocols here at the makerspace. This is a bit of a gap of knowledge as far as what you all deem as appropriate, what are the rules of the makerspace, so on and so forth. So that's something that we can fill in at a later time. And then finally, how to properly use the tools and materials that we have here at the makerspace. So again, why shop safety is important, how you can be safe, identifying hazards around, and then learning how to properly use these tools. Any questions on that so far? All right. Why is it important to be safe in a workshop?
So we don't get sued.
So we don't get sued. From the managerial staff perspective, yes, very important.
We don't lose a finger.
We don't want to lose any digits. Anyone else? What happens when we lose a digit?
We gotta clean the machine.
Then we go see you professionally.
What was that?
We see you professionally.
You see me professionally.
We gotta make sure to pick up the finger and put it in a plastic bag and transport it to the hospital.
Plastic bag, transport, hospital, fill out an incident report as we talked about before.
Incident report first before you pick up the finger. Because we don't want you.
There you go.
No.
So, any kind of injury that is life-threatening or fatal has a loss of blood. And loss of blood then leads to what I just mentioned earlier of fatal. That is why workshop safety is important. Yes, we don't want to get sued. There's monetary stuff in that. We don't want to have to clean people's blood stains off the counters. Please don't. It's wood. It soaks up. But also, we don't want any loss of life. Now, as experienced as anyone can be, accidents happen in a workshop. Who here's ever had an accident?
Just 2 weeks ago.
Do we mind sharing what happened?
Yeah, I used a jigsaw wrong at home.
Jigsaw wrong at home.
Wrong tool for the operation.
Wrong tool for the job.
I was using a tabletop cheap table saw, clean piece of red oak on it, kickback, and I didn't have a splitter on it.
We had kickback due to not having a splitter. Anyone else? I saw some hands went up and then they all kind of went down as we were telling on ourselves.
Bandsaw accident where I tried to cut this finger in half.
Ooh.
Long way.
Oh.
Yeah. Piece I was moving through there broke. Right into it.
Yeah. I imagine everyone here is pretty handy and pretty experienced with these tools, right? Mistakes still happen, injuries can still happen, so regardless, it's all important about slowing it down and understanding the importance that one small mistake can be life-threatening and also stain our tables. Please don't do that. Now, when it comes to personal safety, when you are here in the workshop and you are working, some things to keep in mind. Personal protective equipment, safety goggles, also known as eyes, earmuffs, or the expandable inserts, also referred to as ears. Eyes and ears when using equipment. On top of that, other things to keep in mind. Anything that you have on you that could get caught. Earlier we were talking about wood or other materials getting thrown around. This can get pulled and dragged into a saw. That is not okay. So, if you're wearing something long sleeve, hoodie, jacket, remove it, bring your sleeves up, watches off, rings off. No one wants to get degloved here, I don't think. If you do, that'd be a little weird.
Just show them one picture of somebody being degloved.
We could pull up a video if that's how everyone... You don't want that to happen.
I've never heard that term, but I don't know if I want to know it.
Getting peeled off, what is that?
Imagine you were wearing a glove and you take it off,
yeah.
And now what covers your hand?
Oh, yeah. Well, it usually happens like on a ring, and it gets caught in something and it just peels
It just
skin.
shreds your skin off.
It just takes the skin out.
Banana.
Just the skin, so then you
Yeah.
got the muscle flapping
Oh
around
my
in the
God.
wind. So yeah.
Again, we don't want to stain our tables. We don't want to have to do an incident report. We don't want loss of life or loss of digits. So again, removing any loose-fitting clothing. If you have jacket, removing your jacket. If you're wearing a hoodie, either take the strings out, tuck them in. You do not want those to get caught in the machines and have them pull you in towards the blade, because then we're not talking about a finger cut. We're talking about your torso. And I'm not going to go into more detail on that. I think we can use our imaginations.
Yeah, you should mention long hair too.
Long hair, thank you. That out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
If you have long hair, bring it back. Again, we don't want anything that gets pulled into the saw. If you can put it in a bun or under a hat, whatever it may be, because sometimes even just putting it into a ponytail, if you're turning quickly, you have a saw that's operating or someone else is using a tool that's around you.
Should we have hairnets or something on, or what do we do about that?
I would just encourage folks to properly secure their hair.
We got
Personally,
zip ties to tie up their hair if they need it.
it may be worth investing in a $2 pack of a bunch of hair ties that are just available. That way, if someone says, "Oh, I don't have my hair tie," it's, well, cool. Here's a brand new one.
Ugly hats, penalty for.
Yeah. And this is my I don't have my hair tie hat. Exactly.
I had not hair tie, but I had used pairs of boots from Goodwill at the Fab Lab. People came in sandals. I made them wear those if they wanted to stay.
Yeah. Nice.
Now, on top of, we're talking a lot of the things that we are responsible for. We're responsible for taking off our watches, removing our rings, tying our hair back. Your responsibility to safety is also the others around you. As we just mentioned a moment ago, if you had long enough hair that you had it up in a ponytail, you're operating a machine over here. You're doing everything that you need to do to be safe. But if there's another user who is operating another machine behind you, and you are moving and your hair gets caught in that, there's nothing that you could have done for that. So other than being aware of your workspace, be aware of the people that are around you, let people know that you're there. If someone is working on a project and they have eyes and ears on and they cannot see or hear you because you are in their blind spot, do something to get their attention. Don't walk up to someone while they're operating material and be like, "Hey, I'm here." Hope it's okay that I touched you. I probably should have asked before I did that. But
Happens all the time.
kind of move your way into their vision.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm here. I'm going to be behind you. That way we are aware of the things that are going on. You're not accidentally operating a machine that could harm another person. Another person's not harming a machine that could hurt you. Now, any other ideas of things that we can do? I can think of one more, but I want to give you all kind of the opportunity to think. Personal safety here in a workshop.
No gloves.
No gloves when operating machines. All right, two things that I was holding off on. You may use gloves when handling rough lumber and locating it, but if you're operating a machine, you take the gloves off, or you may run the risk of being degloved twice. And we don't want that to happen. So no gloves when operating machinery. What else? I can think of one more thing.
Is it the shoes?
Shoes. Exactly. Thank you. High five. You've earned it. No flip-flops, sandals. You want closed-toed shoes. I always recommend, myself, when I'm in here, I always like to have a steel-toe boot on me. I don't think that that's something that the shop is enforcing, or the makerspace is enforcing, but at least have a closed-toed shoe. I can tell you the first time I dropped a sheet of plywood on my foot was not fun. And that was with a closed-toed shoe. And that's why I always have steel toes whenever I come into a space like this. Again, you don't necessarily need to come in here to participate with steel toes, but having a closed-toed, I don't think that we're going to allow anyone with sandals, flip-flops, or just socks or bare feet in here. So on top of dropping things on our bare feet, there's of course material on the ground, whether it's sawdust, splinters, so on and so forth. Now, we could be the safest people in the world, we could do everything right, and mistakes can still happen, as we discussed earlier with the stuff that we talked about. We've all had an unpredictable thing happen, or the people around us may not be as safe as we are. Should there be something that happens, first aid kit, far wall over there. In it you will find Band-Aids, I believe some gauze, some stuff to, like medical tape. Yeah, first aid kit. Incident reporting. Is there a QR code around?
Hasn't been made yet. I don't
It
think.
hasn't been made yet. And,
Okay.
yeah.
I think it was drafted though.
We are going to pretend that it exists.
Sure.
So, should there be an incident, kickback. You don't need to have bodily harm to do an incident report. Let's say a tool breaks while you're using it. Maybe it wasn't your fault. Someone broke it, put it back, like, okay, the next person that touches it, it'll be their fault, sort of thing. That's perfectly fine. Fill out an incident report. Something breaks, there's some sort of injury, anything that is worth us noting. That way we can address it in a timely manner, make sure that no one else gets hurt and that you are okay. There will be QR codes around. Feel free to scan those to report an incident. Don't just keep it to yourself as well. There should always be a staff member or volunteer here present at all times. Oftentimes they are located where? Over here. So make sure that you notify whoever is here, hi, this incident had happened. I filled out a report, or can you show me how to fill out a report? They are here to help you, because again, everyone here wants to make sure that we are all using stuff responsibly, being safe, and enjoying the space. Any questions up to this point? Out of character, anything that you all feel I should have mentioned that I neglected to mention up to this point?
Is there a certain age at which you feel someone is too young to be using power tools or equipment?
That is a good question. I've been using power tools and equipment since I was at a young age, but I also grew up in the middle of nowhere, Florida, and it was kind of an expectation with my father on repairing things around the house. I believe minimum age without supervision, I always err on the side of caution. Again, I'm giving you all a conversation about safety. I would say anyone who is not a legal adult should have supervision.
What do you think with supervision? Is there a point where you would step in and say your child is too young to be operating this equipment?
I think that depends on a variety of factors and is not an easy just checkbox on a list. If you see that someone is here with a minor and they are supervising them and they have a look on their face that they don't have a clue what they're doing, that's a red flag. That's discretion for whoever is here on site to say, hey, maybe let me step in and help you. It doesn't have to be a you can't do this sort of thing. I've always found telling people that they can't do something causes more conflict than let me help. Or let's talk about what we can do. Or maybe instead of using that table saw, let's use this table saw. That way they're still accomplishing what they're doing, but they're being gently redirected in a way that is a little bit safer.
But some of it's kind of like dependent on, let's say, just physical size. Like you can't properly, let's say you're 18 and or 16 and you're this short or something, like you might not be able to use the table saw by yourself, just physically safe.
It depends on the type of equipment. Like the table saw and jointer would be, somebody would have to be at least like 16 or so, right?
Right.
But like a scroll saw, 12-year-old get away with that, right? So.
And again, I would say it's kind of on the discretion of being vigilant in how they are properly using the tool. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to properly use a lot of the heavier machinery. We're not going to be talking about a lot of the lighter machinery, but I guess a very good example is you see someone with their knee propped up and they've got a 2x4 across it and they're using a circular saw. That might be something to intervene on and say, hey, let's not do that. Y'all ever watch King of the Hill?
A long time ago.
All the time still.
I love, there's that scene where Hank is trying to build something with Bobby and his workbench is occupied elsewhere, and he's like, Bobby, I need you to hold this down. And Bobby's like, all right, I'll help you. If you want me to hold it tight, say T. If you want me to hold it real tight, say RT. And he's like, okay, T. And he hits it and the board comes up and hits him in the face. Like, if we see things like that happening, like they're not properly using a clamp or a vise or things along those lines, that's kind of we should intervene. It's not necessarily an age, going back to the root of your question. It's just how responsible are they being and where's our concern?
Got it.
At least that's where I come from. You all are the ones in charge.
Okay.
So, great.
Okay.
Great question. Any other questions, comments before we move on? All right, bear with me. As you all notice, I don't like to be one of those people who teaches by reading off of notes. I'm going to refer to them real quickly to see where we're at and make sure I haven't overlooked anything. Gloves, eyewear, hearing protection. All right. Is there ever going to be a printout of shop rules? or like makerspace rules.
Oh yeah,
Do we have an idea of what's going to be included on those?
everything.
Okay.
We kind of have it with the policies, right?
Yeah, well, we both started on it from opposite ends at one point. I don't know where it's at anymore.
So we want, you're talking about on display or just
On display,
available?
what I imagine as an instructor teaching this to folks before they use that is being able to say, before we move forward, here's a copy of our shop
Oh,
rules,
gotcha,
and handing
yep.
it to folks and saying,
Okay.
you'll notice eyes and ears available at all times. If someone else is using a tool, you can't shove it off it to use it for your own thing, things along those lines. So at this point, we would pass out PPE, so eyes and ears for folks, have them take everything off, get everything ready, and masks. Are there masks? We're not going to be doing any sanding today, but I'd like to know where they
There are
are.
masks up there. They're just simple dust mask at
Yeah,
this
about next
time.
to the rest of the PPE.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at this point, it would just be as we continue and we learn about the different machines, and we're going to do a tour of the shop. Starting off the tour with today being about safety. PPE is located over here. There's a bin for clean glasses and a bin for dirty glasses. I imagine this is what we're using to clean them. Gotcha. Perfect. So when you are here in the shop space and you are using things, again, at all times, please use your PPE, and also please clean up after yourself. One thing that the shop is relatively clean right now, but to keep in mind when other folks are here and they are working on other projects, one of the biggest hazards of a shop, again, is the other people around you. Maybe their offcuts are on the ground, there's things that you might step, trip on, sharp items on tables, so on and so forth. So, again, hypervigilance, kind of just being aware of your surroundings, not harming yourself, cleaning up after yourself, grabbing PPE. We have eyes. I believe that there were ears here at one point. Ears here, and of course, masks.
So the PPE, when we enter the shop, the wood shop area, and someone's using something, like if it's empty now and I just want to go in and find a bit or something like that, off limits or put PPE on? And
I would say if someone else is in the shop area, that doesn't necessarily automatically mean that you need to have PPE. But if someone's actively doing something,
when
I was
machine's in use.
If machine's in use,
Okay.
I would say get some PPE on.
Got it. Okay.
And doing the
Fair.
same thing that we talked about before. Hey, I'm over here. That way we're not spooking someone while there's running blades.
Okay.
I would say you don't need to have a mask on unless you are actively, I would say, being the one sanding. If you're just quickly going in, finding a bit, I've breathed in enough dust in my life.
I think we're going to get floor decals that says that you have to have safety glasses on beyond this point.
Okay.
For the entrance to the
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So floor decals, safety glasses beyond this point, so on. So now what we're going to do is we're going to quickly tour the space. We're going to identify the tools that we have, quickly kind of review basic functions of them. We're not doing full teardowns and talking about the overall function, just saying this is how this operates and then moving on. I would say PPE beyond this point. We don't need to have ears on, but I would say safety glasses. Let me go grab mine. Just for the sake of practice. Question for you folks. What is considered the proper entrance into the wood shop? Is it this way
not
or that way? That way. Alrighty.
I'm working on
We're gonna block this way off.
Alright. So thinking back a few moments ago, we were all coming up with some
I look so cool in this.
thoughts, considerations of hazards that we experienced in the past, whether it be machines breaking material, maybe we tripped over something, looking around this space. Did we see anything that could potentially be a hazard?
Pat.
Pat? Okay.
That me being the hazard.
I noticed something the other week that happened. While a couple members were over here. Somebody had moved this over a little closer to the table saw when me and Kyla, a member, were cutting some sheets, And we got to the end, we realized that thing was in the way. So it was like, made me realize like, oh shit, like definitely gotta like keep an eye out for, make sure your work path is clear. Because we had to like back it off the table saw and then,
Yeah.
We're using the planer Saturday, and we ended up backing into that thing, into this table saw. So I had to move it back really quick.
Yeah. Chris, while you were talking, you demonstrated a tripping hazard.
oh yeah, right here.
About 3 separate times you tripped on that cord. So, again, keeping in mind of our space, if we are the ones using the space and we use a bandsaw and we're done with it and we unplug it, we don't just throw it on the ground and say, all right, I'm done. We properly remove the hazard from anyone else tripping on it, causing an issue. Anything else that we notice? Again, we've got extension cord here, but that's enough out of the way. I'm not going to make a big deal about it right now.
Brick down there.
There's a random brick. I imagine, is that meant to be a shim for that router table?
No.
We have no idea.
That's just our resident pet rock brick.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
At least it's out of the way. It's not in the middle of the workshop.
You have one cord going over another piece of equipment.
Thank you. We have an entire electrical cord going over another piece of equipment. Now, neither of these pieces of equipment are currently being used, so I'm not condoning that this is a proper way of doing this,
But it's also in the air.
it could have been a hell of a lot worse. So yeah, same thing, again, cords going over stuff. This, I understand, was just something that just happened, but again, keeping the space clean, organized, things put away, things along those lines. Right now, the shop is in relatively decent order in the sense of there's not a lot of mess. But if other folks are in here, other folks are doing things, whatever materials that they're working with, whatever scraps, cut-offs that they may have, picking up might not be a priority. You looked like you were about to raise your hand.
No, I was just getting comfortable.
Okay. Any other thoughts, comments, concerns before we move on? All right. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to quickly be introduced to some of the bigger pieces of machinery here and what their functions are, how to properly use them. And then I don't know if you all actually want to go through the process of demonstrating tonight, of using them. Again, I want to be respectful to y'all's time. But I guess starting with the table saw, because it's right here and it's in front of all of us. Does anyone here know what the point of a table saw is?
Cut your hand off.
It is a good way to have a very dangerous cut. Table saws can be used for a variety of different means, but for most generic intents and purposes, it is for making what is known as a rip cut. Difference between a rip and a cross cut, again, I'm sure you all know, but for the sake of anyone who is new to the space and new to the material, ripping a cut goes with the grain of the wood, and cross cuts go across the grain. Those who use table saws regularly may have what's known as a jig to help them with assisting in making safer cuts of a variety of ways that don't just have to be rip cuts. But overall, that is what we are looking for here at a table saw for its primary function and purpose to be. You will notice here we have a brush to move away all the sawdust that was here. There's also a push stick. When making a cut, we have a blade guard. At the back here, we also have anti-kickback pommels. Kickback is when the material that you are working with seizes against the fence and the blade spinning towards the direction of you has the tendency to shoot it back at you. We have some video. That's what I skipped over earlier. There would have been a whole thing where we would have looked at videos before we were here. So, Chris, out of character, Chris has a copy of this lesson that I've typed up in it. I've included several links to some videos and some timestamps of some things to cover, of which includes table saw kickback, router mishaps, and a few others. Did you happen to watch them? Do you remember off the top of your head?
I watched a couple of them, yeah.
What's the router issues typically? I don't
Like
use it a
hand
lot.
routers or
So router tables have a tendency to potentially do kickback as well.
Kickbacks also.
We have a video of a router kickback, and there was another video that I had of a gentleman who was using a palm router,
Yeah.
and again, he was very confident,
of
very
his hand.
comfortable with it, bit his thumb. So, again, We use these tools over and over. We get a little more comfortable with them. We get more confident. I know what I'm doing. And then that's when we get hurt. So taking our time. The fence, again, you all know what a fence is. But for the sake of whoever may be listening to this in the future, fence is so you can make those adjustments, lock it in place, and you have something to press your board against to get yourself a nice clean line. When using a table saw, my biggest recommendation, one of the first things that Pat and I saw when we walked in here, was the blade was still raised, and it is still here. So as always, make sure that you lower the blade when you're done using it. And whenever you are making a cut, you only want the blade to go above the material that you're cutting. You do not need the blade to be all the way raised up to make your cut as you go through. You increase the risk of potentially a kickback, throwing it, biting it at a certain angle if your material is getting seized or going a different direction. So only raise the blade as high as it needs to be to cut through the material that you're working with, and then lower the blade when you're done working with it. I'm a big advocate of safety, being that we are having a safety conversation. Always use your blade guard, and again, your anti-kickback pommels that you have here. Should that material get pulled in the direction towards you, these teeth bite down on it and help prevent that from being shot back at you. So, assuming that we're going to pretend that we watched those kickback videos, they are pretty gnarly. Your body is a sack of water and
Lard.
Yeah, water and lard. And this can do kickback that goes into walls. So it's not going to judge just based on who's in the way. When using a table saw, the proper way to do it is you want to be standing off to the side, using your push stick, and again, feeding it through there. You want to never, ever bring your arms over the blade. Again, we're trying to mitigate risk here. And when you are making a cut, you want to be sure that you pass your cut all the way through. You do not want to stop halfway. And when you start the blade, you do not want to start it with your material cutting the blade. You want to get the blade started, pass your cut through, turn the saw off, wait for the blade to stop spinning, then retrieve your material. That is going to be something that I say at every piece of machinery that we go to today, is again, not reaching over the blade, waiting for the blade to stop before you retrieve your material. Some people can get impatient, or they get very confident. Oh, I know what I'm doing, reaching over a blade or trying to grab it while it's still spinning, and that can cause an injury. Feedback. Anything about the table saw that I neglected to mention?
How do you turn it on and off, or stop it?
Well, first thing, we'd have it plugged in. Oh, yeah, very good. So we have our power switch. Again, follow the directions there. I would say refer to the manufacturer's directions there. I would like to use the machine a little bit, we'll get more comfortable before I just start reading off of it. But for today's sake, the directions for operating these machines should be listed on all of them at some spot. But yeah, as far as pushing to stop, joiners are used for flattening the face and the edge of boards or materials. Here we have a guard. If we remove the guard, we can see we have a circular blade that's here that spins, it bites in and it shaves off the material. When you use a joiner, this is our in-feed table, this is our out-feed table. You don't want to use the joiner where I'm standing.
Right.
Just trying to be conscious of that camera. Again, we do not want to use our bare hands when going over blades. Something that you feel doesn't need to be said, but we would be surprised, and I imagine we will at some point in the future. Having a push stick or something along those lines, when, just like with the table saw, as you move material into the blade, you want to be pushing down and against the fence to ensure that you get a flat face on that board. Now, again, we're not properly milling wood tonight. What I was taught how to do to get a proper flat face, because I imagine, pause real quick, a lot of this safety workshop and having folks use these tools is so they can prep materials for future workshops, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
So, if we are doing like a cutting board workshop in the future and we have some hardwoods, what I was taught on how to find the proper face and edge to start with is on a workbench, having the wood, laying it flat on the table, and kind of rocking it on one, flipping it over, rocking it, and trying to find which one wobbles the least to give you your most flat face to start with. Piece of chalk, you then mark whichever face is the flattest faced, F1, that's your face 1. Then doing the same thing with the edge of the board, standing it upright, which end wobbles the least, that's going to be your edge 1. Starting with the flattest part, with the machine running, again, pressing down and against the fence, committing all the way through as that moves through. You're then going to inspect your board where you wrote with the chalk on face 1, edge 1 to see what areas still need to be flattened, and continue doing your passes until you have a flat face. Doing the same thing with your edge. You want to use that back and forth until you get a flat face and a flat edge.
So the test between that is the same thing, put it on a flat surface and see if it rocks, or is it just visual?
That's how I was taught to do it, to first start to identify your face and your first face and your first edge. From that point forward with the chalk, again, how I was trained, is then it becomes a visual of, is there still chalk that's on this side of the, that needs to be addressed. I'm willing to hear from anyone else if they've learned anything differently.
So the chalk mark you're saying is like go all the way down.
Just write like a big F number 1. You don't need to like color in the whole side of the board.
Okay.
I need chalk. Go ahead.
When I was taught, it wasn't exactly chalk. There was a specific material that's used, but chalk is also acceptable. Yes, questions about the joiner? Going on. Power, start and stop, pretty self-explanatory. Our outfeed is here. This is where our dust, or I guess more likely wood chips, that we're going to find come out. Infeed and outfeed tables can be adjusted, but for all intents and purposes, I believe the machine's been set up properly. People have been using it, from what I've heard.
Why would you adjust the right versus left different?
Is that a depth of cut, or what is the,
Well, the outfeed should be pretty much tangent to the cutter head, right? So that when the board comes off, it's going to be flat to it. And then the infeed table is the one you want to drop down to go into the cutter head.
That makes sense.
The more you lower it down, the more material you take off.
Yep. Yeah. That's my understanding.
Yeah, so I'm not totally sure why there's adjustment on that side either.
and what are these?
My only
handles
thing,
do?
the only thing I can think of is if the knives themselves, if the knives are change their length, then you need to move the outfeed table to match the length of the knives.
Rare, maybe. See how bulky they are?
Yeah.
Very good discussion.
So what are these handles on the side for?
It's lifting and lowering the
Adjusting the
Total height?
So
infeed.
That's how, those are probably
those
the
are
locks.
just levers
Yeah.
to pull
These
it
are-
up and down.
Those are the
These
locks.
locks and adjustment. Got it.
And then,
Oh,
yeah.
now it's broken. Oh, I see. All right.
and it's got a little scale here to tell you how far it's from zero.
Okay.
You probably need to go through here and make sure this is zeroed out properly too for cutters. I always wondered why we have an adjustable
Fence.
fence, because I mean, the primary reason for
Because it looks like you could do it at an angle,
an
right?
angle,
So you
yeah.
could do a
Yeah, sure,
45
but, I
or
mean,
a 33.
the joiner, you're usually trying to square up something, right? So, oh,
People who are more skilled than me would have a better answer for that.
Yeah.
If you want to do a 45 on a miter and get it super nice, I guess.
Now, I will say, when we're actually doing this type of class with a group of people and actually milling wood, I would not be starting with the table saw. I would have them start with the joiner. Because we'd have the raw material, we're identifying our edge one, or our face one, our edge one, flattening those. Then, I don't have my lesson plan in front of me, but I mean, just mentally walking myself through it, we would work our way to either table saw or miter saw. Get the shape, the size of the material that we want to work with. I guess if we're discussing cutting board prep. So using table or miter saw for that reason. Miter saw, I think we're all pretty familiar with, but I would do a similar, here's your trigger, pull down, blade stop moving, Sorry, I'm just kind of breezing through it at that point because I want to get to what's right in front of us, a planer. So we have a flat edge and a flat face from our jointer. We have now trimmed up our sides of our material to have it be the dimensions that we like. The planer adjusts the thickness of the board. So we have, again, power switches. When you feed things into a planer, and my lesson plan has a lot of details on planers because planers kind of spook me. You do not stick your hand in them. They have anti-kickback pommels, very similar to that table saw, that will grab the material to prevent it from coming back at you. Which means once you put it in there, it's in there. If you try to put it in and it's not grabbing, you're turning that machine off, you're raising it up, you're getting it out of there that way. Because if it's operating and you're trying to pull it out, you're going to mar up your wood. And you're also going to make it very dangerous because you run the risk of lifting it up into the blades and causing a big issue. People getting sued, people getting injured. We covered all this before. Don't get blood on the table. So, blades spin in through there. There are rollers that feed it through from one end to the other. We have our outfeed here for our dust collection. I think right now it's set up in confetti configuration because we don't have a hose or anything on it or a bag. But this is for adjusting our final thickness of the material that we were working on. So you can use a joiner. Joiners oftentimes are referred to as joiner planers, depending on the type that we have. This one might even say that it doesn't.
The joiner planer would actually have a slot underneath for the one head would be for the top and the bottom.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The one I have at home is a joiner planer, and the one that I learned on was a joiner planer as well. Because again, you can adjust the thickness of a board with this as well as this, but this is more for your overall material. You want to make sure that the material that you put in there can be fed all the way through. So you want to have whatever that you put in here be at least 2 inches longer than the device. Because otherwise, it's stuck in there, and you're shutting it off, you're raising it up, and I don't think we want to be digging our hands in there.
So for a cutting board, this would be your min length that you'd, well, that plus the 2.
So earlier when we talked about using the miter and table saw to get to the final dimensions, may even hold off on that step. If we have a material that's a little bit longer, plane it through first, then cut it to our final dimensions on a table or miter saw.
Oh yeah, the planer would do the third edge of your flattening, and the table saw would do the other edge.
Mm-hmm.
Does it have a gauge for? Okay, it does have a height gauge. I haven't used usually when I've used the planer, it was always just set up for.
I have not used a planer like this before.
Yeah.
One I had a little digital readout on it. When you are making passes, you are making minor passes as you go through. You do not want to take off a lot of material as you're putting material through this.
So on that note, right here is a gauge.
Mm-hmm.
It actually has how wide the material is and
Perfect.
And this little thing goes up and down with
Whatever's
board
going
you
in
put
there.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Oh, it actually tells you.
Yeah. And then this is the speed here, right? You're only supposed to turn the speed from fine to coarse or coarse to fine while the machine is running. Don't do it when it's static.
Good to know. I learned something today. So, minor passes as it goes through, remove little bits of material at a time. It can become mesmerizing using a planer because it's very fun. You put it in, it comes out the other end. Magical, let's do it again. You'll find very quickly how much material all of a sudden you are losing. So, keep an eye on your projects or the people who are around you are working with it. Now, something I want to mention about a planer that I have seen enough videos online to spook me about is, and there's people who will argue with you, have your flat edge be what is cut. Some folks will put an end grain cutting board into these and have your end grain up. Remember earlier when we talked about putting the when you're going through, having it go along with the grain of the material that you're working with. When you put an end grain that faces up, and end grains go in all these different directions, you run the risk of that piece getting launched in there and causing some trouble. Folks have been able to put end grain materials through planers and they'll swear by it. I've done this a million times. It never happened to me. What happens when we get comfortable with materials or with equipment?
Yeah, I'm not totally sure about that. I think it's. I'll be the one that argues with you.
Okay.
I think that's a pretty standard practice to
Yeah,
put
Zoe
a
was putting her
cardboard.
end grained cutting boards through.
Yeah.
You won't see me do it.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
The thing is that when it's already a
Glued
cutting
up.
board, it's already glued up. It's not like it's, the ingrained part's one pops is just gonna pop out or whatever. So we will further investigate that, and make sure that's a true statement. But I think
I've heard plenty of people say that and never have a problem. Again, it is enough to spook me that I won't do it, but
yeah, we're looking at the actual instructions.
There we go. You have an arrow here that tells you the feed direction of the material that you're putting in, so on and so forth. Anything I'm missing about planer?
Yeah, you want to be careful on the outfeed about lifting the board. You want to
Like
make
as
sure
it's
it
coming
stays,
out?
Yeah, you want to make sure it stays in the same plane. or
Yeah,
else
because otherwise you're going to bite it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Snipe it.
So if I'm using this and I plane it down to the
Desired
depth or
thickness.
side, if I put it through again and don't change anything, it shouldn't bite it anymore. It should just let it.
It may not even feed through.
It may not even feed
Got
through.
it.
So with every pass, you're going to want to adjust your blade height with
Yep.
this here.
And then at some point it's done. And
Yep.
All right.
Until you get to your desired thickness.
Okay.
Alrighty. Alright, so going blind, the only other thing that I think that we were going to talk about is the bandsaw. Beautiful bandsaw. Similar anatomy to all the other saws that we have. We have a miter groove here for our fence, or we have our fence over here. Again, adjustments. I'm just breezing through the bandsaw. I'm sorry, guys. When it comes to waiting for the saw to stop moving, bandsaws can take a while, which is why there's also a brake to help slow down the saw.
I didn't know what that was. Good.
Again, I'm just really breezing through this bandsaw. I'm sorry, guys. But
Any tips safety-wise with that one? Other than
Watch your finger.
let's talk about function real
Okay.
fast.
Oh, okay.
Why would we use a bandsaw when we have all these other saws? Bandsaws are useful for people to make non-traditional cuts, like a curved cut, or you could do a lot of everything that we've talked about, rip cuts, cross cuts, on a bandsaw here.
Use it for metal tubing on occasion.
Yeah,
Should I not do
You should not do that.
that?
use the proper blade.
Yeah, it's smaller.
No,
than
that machine's not made for metal.
This machine is not made for metal, no.
Got it.
whatever everyone's good at.
So yes, the function for a bandsaw, again, you can make a little bit more non-traditional cuts. You could have something with like a curve into it, make some shapes, Christmas ornaments, like how I believe that there was one shown earlier. I'm not sure if you used the bandsaw for that or not. Laser. So just like everything else.
Lasers have made all this obsolete for me.
Hey,
No,
hey,
come on. No, there's okay. It's good stuff. We'll show you.
like everything else, a healthy dose of fear, or I guess a healthy dose of respect, is what makes you be a little bit safer whenever you're doing stuff here. Of course, kickback in the general sense. What I've seen with bandsaw is kind of some material getting seized up against the fence and kind of like flinging up and around.
It goes that direction. If I'm going from the outside, it would shoot it towards the fence to me, or it would flick it out to the.
Well, I mean, the
side.
blade is advancing downward, right?
Right.
So it really can't kick back.
I have an iron
Yeah.
aluminum tube.
Now, like this one, like the
We're gonna put
tabletop
a
ones
little
make sense to
metal
me,
sign on
but
there
this guy has
in
like
case you
like
did-
I want to buy it.
Yes,
The
that's your blade
height?
guard.
the height that you could do. Is this like I just can't even imagine you would put something that tall through there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like, why would it go up so
I
high?
actually have a
And
small
want to
one
saw a
that
log in
I
half?
actually never use. Every one
Uh,
So-
Resawing.
get a sample.
Fun fact: when milling logs, a sawmill is just a bandsaw on its side.
Modern day.
Yeah.
You mean it's
So-
not two guys with a big saw?
Depending on how roughing it you want to go.
Yeah, you also only want to stop a little bit above your material. You don't want it all the way up and try to run too much material over.
Yep, just like how we were talking about with table saws and everything else, like we don't want to have the entire blade exposed, because again, why would we do that? We don't want to be crossing our arms in front of the blade. This is a good one that can potentially catch a watch, catch a ring, more so I feel than the other ones that we were kind of talking about. All right, so again, this was an actual class. We would be milling the stuff as we went from machine to machine, and then we'd end up with some pre-made material to start some cutting boards or anything else I can imagine. Questions, comments, concerns? Again, I'm not an end-all be-all expert, but I am passionate about it.
The only thing I might want to point out on this is this fence also goes the other direction, so that if you got something smaller, get the same thing. So now if you got something real, you know, like this stuff Dan screws around with, and, except for aluminum tubing.
That's too small for the tubing I use, but I get you.
What about stainless steel?
Yep. There's actually a
Horizontal bands
local company
would be very useful.
Carter, and it's all kinds of accessories for the same thing. You need to get them to sponsor the makerspace.
That'd be nice. So yeah, in a nutshell, our joiners, our planers, our table saw, our miter saw, and our bandsaw, if we want to be really creative with some cuts, are what I feel are the things that are most, let's cover these. You guys have a variety of them around here. There is a router table over there. That one would be a definite use your ears when you're using a router table. I don't have much experience with a router table or a palm router, if I'm being fully transparent, so I'm not going to try to BS my way through that. I'd rather just be honest.
I'm used to them when they're on a CNC. That's how I use them.
So routers, anything with routers we need to be worried about?
They'll bite you, and we've got videos on that. Routers are very loud, very high pitched. Have you used a router, or you're okay?
Routers, I think you normally want to go against when you're going to, but sometimes you can't, right?
If you're doing a
Yeah, if you're going all the way around, obviously you can't always go with the grain, but I think traditionally, or if you can, you want to go against the grain of the router. You want to go in this direction.
Yep, so typical uses of routers are, of course, you know, like the edge material that you're kind of doing with, you want to have like a certain, like you don't want it to be such like a squared edge, you know, want to round it off a little bit. Maybe you want to put some juice grooves into a cutting board, sort of things. But yeah, the router table, moving that fence over to the side, if you were to have kind of like, I'm going to use my cutting board example, and you're just having the cutting board against the fence, have the depth of the router at a certain, however deep you want that curved edge to be, and again using a push stick, not your hand, pushing it across the router.
We should also probably mention about the feather boards. So these things should be used like if you're on the table saw, it should be up against your wood. Right, so you want to adjust this so that the piece of wood you're cutting fits in there. Obviously, if you're doing a panel, you can't do that. But
Got it. So like if you had like a,
You talking the out feed side or the in feed side?
the end feed side,
Okay.
yeah,
Helps keep the wood pushed up against the fence.
Yeah.
because you're trying to stay square with it.
got it.
That's the purpose of the fence. But that can also be used on the router table.
Yeah.
So you want to, you don't want the board floating. You want it to be solid. Yeah.
Is it just like a pressure fit then?
Just to like
Yeah,
an input.
Because these aren't like T slots.
Yeah, so
Got it.
You're using the angle. There you go. Flex of the.
yeah, all you just this up to
When you tighten down, the slot things expand, so you can't move it.
Oh, I see.
Then when you untighten it,
Alrighty. So, where I come from as far as the safety perspective of things. Those are my general, here's how these function, here's their general uses, here's how to properly use them, some things to keep in mind. Any other things that we feel should be?
Well, probably road foot safety should be in there,
Okay.
and Sanders Station, kind of general stuff. The lathe eventually, right? Lathe can bite you.
Yeah, I am sticking mostly to just what I know.
Yeah,
That's not to say I can't learn and then incorporate it later.
And the CNC is